Good evening, friends. I'm coming to you from the backyard of the church. I'm by the fire. And tonight we're going to talk about Good Friday and the day that is hard to call good. Tonight we're talking about the death of Jesus. And as we take in this crucifixion, I want to talk about really the situation we're in right now. I had a conversation with a friend recently. She was telling me how her daughter, who's a senior, won't be experiencing graduation. She won't be going to prom. All those events that seniors have to finalize their time in high school, she won't experience. As we finished the conversation, she summed up what she was feeling by saying, "It shouldn't be this way." I don't know about you, but I agree with her. It shouldn't be this way. We are watching the death tolls continue to march on. The number of people with the virus continue to tick upwards. Schools are shut down. Businesses are closing. It shouldn't be this way. I was talking with the grandparent as well. He was telling me how he hadn't seen his grandkids in about a month, and he had no idea when he was going to see them next. It was breaking his heart. It shouldn't be this way. I mean, we're Americans in the 21st century. In the 21st century, we are in this technological revolution. We are able to do so much. We have smartphones, smart TVs, we have smart everything. We're living in a world that is so advanced, and yet, seems like we are just stuck. It shouldn't be this way. In our medical world, the things they can do are just amazing. I mean, like knee replacements, right? Like, they can just replace your knee. It just takes a minute. Like, I mean, that's not more than a minute, but it just takes a moment. Like, they know what they're doing. It's amazing. The advancement of medical technologies is just astounding. And yet with this virus, we feel just kind of lost and unsure what to do. It shouldn't be this way. The baseball season, we have no idea when that's going to start. Weddings can't have a reception. No more than 10 people at a funeral. It shouldn't be this way. In the midst of this time and this season, we look to God and we ask Him all sorts of questions. And it's good for us to do that. It's hard, though, to find answers to everything that we're feeling. However, in the midst of this day, on Good Friday, we can look to our God, and I think there's one thing for sure that we can get from our God, and that's how He gets how we feel. That Jesus understands how we feel right now. Now, just kind of going through His life really briefly, remember that He was born to a virgin woman. It was a miracle. Mary was a virgin, and it was a miracle when He was born. There were over 400 prophecies for His life. And once He began His ministry, through His teaching, through His miracles, He astounded many people. I mean, just thinking about His miracles for a second, right? Like, there were blind people who were able to see because of Jesus. That there were people with hands that were shriveled, that were made full. That there was a man who was paralyzed that was lowered from a roof, and Jesus said to him, just like, get up and walk. Take your mat and walk. He did those things, and people followed Him. His teachings, even today, still have impact. People memorize them, and people hold on to them. They change people's lives. That through His life, that Jesus impacted countless individuals. And then for Palm Sunday, which we celebrated last Sunday, we celebrated Jesus as the King. He had His triumphant entry into Jerusalem, right? Riding on a donkey. People laid down their cloaks. They waved palm branches. They cried out, Hosanna, which means save us. He was the King. And yet, the story changes very quickly. As I was processing these moments, I came to really this story, and I came to Matthew 26, and what just kind of came over me were just the paragraph titles. As I walked through it, it just told us the story. In Matthew 26, it begins with the plot against Jesus. The chief priests and the leaders of the Jewish sects, they got together. They were out to get Him. They found Judas, and as they found Judas, they talked with him, and he agreed to betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Now, Judas wasn't just an ordinary person. He was a disciple. He was a friend of Jesus. For 3 years, Judas was there. He was there to see His teachings, to see His miracles, to be present. For 3 years he was there, and yet he agreed to betray Him. It moves on to the Last Supper. This was a celebratory moment. They were celebrating the Passover, how the Israelites were freed from Egypt. It was a celebration of freedom. And as they did this, Jesus even went so far as to wash his disciples' feet. That he washed their feet in this profound servant mentality that is still astounding today. And yet through that meal, things changed quickly. He told of how Peter was going to deny him. And then quickly it moved to Gethsemane. He went there to pray. He knew what was before him. He said to God the Father, he said, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." He was agonizing over what was in front of him. And as he was agonizing, shortly thereafter, the guards came. The guards came, and as they came, led by Judas, they arrested him. As they were about to arrest him, a fight broke out. And what did Jesus do? He calmed the fight down. He healed a man's ear, but they still arrested him. They brought him to the Sanhedrin. Now they're the leaders in the Jewish world at that time. They had some witnesses there, and they found that Jesus was tried for blasphemy. He stated that he was the Son of God, and even though it was true, they convicted him of blasphemy. As this was going on, Peter was in the courtyard, and by a fire kind of like this. People approached him 3 different times. They said, "You were with that Jesus guy, that rabbi." And 3 times, Peter denied him. Right after this, it says, Judas hangs himself. The guilt got to him. After this, Jesus went before Pilate. Pilate was the governor of that time, that area. As the governor, he had the right to release somebody. And every Passover celebration, they always released one prisoner as a sign of the mercy of the governor. Well, at that time, they were going to possibly release 2 people. One was Jesus. The other was Barabbas. Barabbas was a convicted killer. Even though the crowd knew who was really worse off, instead of picking Jesus, they picked Barabbas. After this, they beat Jesus. They beat him in a way that's just even hard to talk about. The soldiers mocked him. They put a crown of thorns upon his head. They took his clothes. And they gave him a cross to carry. As they gave him a cross to carry, he began to walk towards Golgotha. He was so hurt from the beating that Simon of Cyrene came and helped him. Eventually they got to Golgotha. They nailed him to that cross. They put that cross up, they erected it, and Jesus hung there. Now the Romans, when they wanted to kill somebody, they wanted to do it the most gruesome, painful way possible. That's how they got to the cross. That's how they got to crucifixion. And so Jesus was brutally killed on that cross. Before his death, in the midst of his agony, he did a couple things. There was a thief who was next to him. This thief talked to him and cried out to him, and Jesus welcomed this thief into paradise in the midst of this agony, this torture. And finally, right before his death, he cried out and he said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And then he yelled, "It was finished." As we just walk through this story, we realize how unfair, upside down, and backwards it is. It's all of that because this is God on earth. He was sinless. He was perfect. He taught in ways that are still astounding. He performed miracles that just blow our mind. And yet, they killed him. It shouldn't be that way. And so when we wrestle with the scenario we're in right now, the world that we're in right now, and things are upside down and backwards, Jesus gets it. And not only does he get it, but he redeemed it. He redeemed the brokenness. He redeemed the sin. He redeemed the struggle that we're facing. And so, friends, today is Good Friday. We remember what Jesus has done on the cross for us. This brutal, horrible death, this unfair moment. And we realize it shouldn't be this way. And yet God entered right into that pain and that hardship and that tragedy out of love. And what we get to do is we get to realize that the story is not over. That yeah, it's Friday, but Sunday's coming. And on Sunday we celebrate the fullness of the story. And so tonight, as we process these events, a few people at church, what they did is they've made crosses, and right into the smack dab the middle of the cross, they put the word hope in spray paint. As they did that, it was a sign that in the midst of the chaos and the struggle that we're all facing right now, that there's hope. Because in Jesus Christ, there's always hope. Because Jesus Christ was the Son of God who died for us all.